The Brooklyn Nets have had quite the fall this season in terms of performance, and we get it. Kevin Durant's on the sideline thanks to his injury, but the Nets still have superstars like James Harden and Kyrie Irving on their side. So what's their excuse? It's apparently taking a toll on the players too. Irving has had some things to say to his team ever since the match against the Utah Jazz. So what did he say? Keep watching this video for all the details, plus more NBA news. First, Kyrie Irving calls out his team's performance. The Nets vs. Jazz on Friday was a disappointment for the one supporting the Brooklyn team. A wire-to-wire defeat in which the Nets never led and lost with a final score of 125-102. Even that score was an improvement from how the first half of the game went down, in which the Nets fell behind by 34 points before they steadied up and tried to do better and trim the lead a bit in the fourth quarter. The Nets guard Kyrie Irving targeted the team's defensive intensity following the loss. He said, "We want to be able to impact the basketball on the defensive end, so we're not taking the ball out of the rim every single time. That's a demoralizing way to play basketball." The Brooklyn team let the Jazz shoot 56.5% from the field and 44.7% from the three-point line. The shooting clip actually dipped from the first quarter onwards, in which they made 65% of all their shots. Rookie Cam Thomas was also critical of the team's performance. He said, "They couldn't miss at first, so it's pretty demoralizing when you got to take the ball out of the hoop every time because every single shot they put up in the first 5-6 minutes went in. They shot like 50-something% from the three-point line. It was ridiculous, some crazy stat like that." The Brooklyn Nets have descended even further down from the Eastern Conference standings, now being only a half a game ahead of the Toronto Raptors, who stand on the 7th place line. They're a game and a half away from stepping all the way down to the 9th seed. A trade rumor concerning James Harden is also floating around, and if this performance continues, it will definitely become more believable. Now, in other news, former NBA star has been arrested in Madrid. A former NBA player has been arrested in Madrid by the municipal police when he was found getting involved in two separate fights in a restaurant and on the street. The incident that has followed the argument Ty Lawson had at Barajas Airport, where the local police also had to intervene. The police have explained to EFE that Lawson became outraged and threw a glass at a customer inside an Italian restaurant. The victim recognized Lawson as a national basketball player and reported him to the police. After that, an official search for him began, and he was eventually arrested. These aren't even the only incidents Lawson's gotten involved in. He was once called out for making sexist comments and was also arrested for drunk driving once. Lawson, who has played for the NBA a long time, represented several teams, including the Denver Nuggets, the Houston Rockets, the Sacramento Kings, and the Washington Wizards. Back in 2017, Ty Lawson had moved to China and Europe to continue playing basketball there. Who is the one player these teams should trade ahead of the trading deadline? Only a few days remain till the NBA 2022 trade deadline, and almost every team has gone into panic mode trying to scramble for the best player. The Clippers and the Trailblazers officially kick-started trade Friday, with the Blazers giving Los Angeles Norman Powell a 5-player deal. So here are some trade ideas for teams while they can still go ahead with the process. Atlanta Hawks. The Atlanta Hawks should receive shooting guard Gary Harris from the Orlando Magic in exchange for power forward Danilo Gallinari. The Hawks would probably be helped by another wing stopper with a 27th in total defense rank this season. Trae Young, who's undoubtedly an amazing scorer and shot creator, is still lacking at defense and could use some good defenders who have his back and cover for his weaknesses. Not to mention how Harris has become kind of a forgotten talent after being picked up by Orlando in last year's trade-offs. He has definitely worked on himself and built his reputation as a reliable 3-and-D option on the wing. Orlando also needs someone of a higher caliber, and the Hawks have no one better to offer than Gallinari, whose abilities truly parallel those of Harris. Now we have the Boston Celtics. The Boston Celtics should keep an eye out for Harrison Barnes and Alex Len of the Sacramento Kings. In return, the Kings should get Al Horford. Boston has been doing better as of late, but could still use some shooters. The team ranks 22nd in shooting and shooting three-point percentage, and also needs more floor spacers for players such as Marcus Smart, Jason Tatum, and Jaylen Brown. Barnes is hitting 43.6% of his threes off the catch and averages 16.8 points, with 6.1 rebounds and 2.5 assists for the Kings this year. He could play either forward position and mix and match a bit with Tatum in the front court. On the other hand, Len will give Boston the big man depth it needs when it doesn't have Horford anymore. The move will also cut just below $3 million off of Boston's payroll, dropping it below the luxury tax. Horford could become the starting power forward for the Kings next season. The 35-year-old is really productive for someone his age and is an even better passer than Barnes, even if he doesn't match Barnes' accuracy from deep. Up next, Charlotte Hornets. The Charlotte Hornets should receive Jakob Poeltl in exchange for Mason Plumlee from the San Antonio Spurs. It's definitely clear that the Hornets need an upgrade at center, and Plumlee will be pushed around trying to guard players such as Joel Embiid, Jared Allen, or Bam Adebayo. Receiving Poeltl would undoubtedly be a huge upgrade from the Hornets' current position. The 7-foot-tall, 245-pound center plays terrific terrific defense and is currently averaging 13.3 points per game, which is a career high. He's 26 and is on a $9.8 million contract owing for the year 2022 to 2023. The move would be an instant upgrade for the team. On the other hand, since Zach Collins is back healthy as ever now, the Spurs wouldn't suffer too much if they lose Petal. Plus, Plumlee would make a valuable veteran for the Spurs. Next, we have the Chicago Bulls. The Chicago Bulls should get Dennis Schroeder and Bruno Fernando in exchange for Troy Brown Jr. from the Boston Celtics. Bleacher Report's Jake Fisher says about the trading possibility. In other Celtics discussions, Boston continues searching for landing spots for point guard Dennis Schroeder and wing Josh Richardson. A framework of Schroeder to Chicago for Troy Brown Jr. and a second-round pick has circulated around the league, while the Jazz have been consistently mentioned as a possible destination for Richardson. The Bulls may need another ball handler with both Lonzo Ball and Alex Caruso on the sideline. Schroeder could be the affordable guy they're looking for. Including Fernando in the deal would mean that both the Bulls and Celtics would stay under the luxury tax line. Next, Cleveland Cavaliers. The Cleveland Cavaliers should get Robin Lopez from the Orlando Magic in exchange for Kevin Pangos and Ed Davis. With the Cavs already going for a Karis LeVert trade-in order to make their playmaking stronger, the team's next order of business should be making a roster spot open in order to convert Brandon Goodwin's two-way deal into a contract that's standard. The Cavaliers will bring in Lopez to act as the backup center right behind Jarrett Allen, who's a playoff-tested veteran who's amazing in the locker room. He's much more capable of handling big minutes than Davis if required at this point in their respective careers too. The 2-for-1 will open up the roster spot for Goodwin, who jumped Pangos in the rotation as the backup point guard. The rebuilding Magic will also be adding another draft pick to their team. They'll get to decide whether they want to keep Davis and Pangos as veteran presences or let them go to other teams. And lastly, the Dallas Mavericks. The Dallas Mavs should receive Kemba Walker and Evan Fournier in exchange for Dwight Powell and Sterling Brown from the New York Knicks. It's time for the Mavs to step up their offensive game around Luka Doncic. Tim Hardaway Jr. is also sidelined for the time being due to injury, so Dallas could be interested in taking some salary burden off of the Knicks' shoulders by taking in both Walker and Fournier. The Mavs could absorb Walker into their $10 million upwards trade exception. He'd make a good sixth man, stepping in and running the offense while knocking threes down at a high level. Fournier's owed over $30 million over the next 2 years, so losing him would take away a lot of the financial weight off the Knicks' chest. And that's it for today's video. Which of these trade suggestions do you agree with? Let us know in the comments below. And make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel where we post similar videos quite frequently. And we'll see you in the next one.